Tell you what, man, we always leave the AC on in this office. So, like, it could be dead of summer in Florida, and I'm still wearing a hoodie and a hat because it does, man. It's like, it's either that, listen, it's either that or I have to turn the AC, and you turn the AC up and then you get hot. And you know what? Working in a cold environment is better for productivity than working in a hot environment. It's
Boom.
not I'm not the one saying it. Science is saying it, people. Don't come at me.
Okay.
Science is saying it's better to work in a cold environment than a hot environment. What science? Don't ask me because I don't have a source.
And sleep.
And I was gonna say the same thing. And sleep.
It's sleep.
Sleep. You should be cold when you sleep.
Oh yeah, I love sleep. I freaking love. I love sleep. Sleep is like a drug. You know.
Hey, this would be fun. Maybe we could all say like any sleep hacks that we do, and we can start the conversation that way. Not sleep hacks, but like, because sleep is important. I think all three of us completely understand that, and like how it's vital to get as much as you can, as deep as you can. Yay? Nay?
To be successful, don't you have to not sleep and just grind?
Bro, I grind in my sleep. I sleep with my eyes.
That's right.
When I wake up in the middle of the night with my laptop and PropStream on go, ready to get
you beat me to that.
data.
You beat me to that. You
Yeah.
beat me to you pulled me.
I wake up, I'm texting sellers at 4 a.m. in the morning saying, "Hey, do you want to sell your house cash?"
You beat
It's
me
Christmas.
to the.
I'm like,
you
"Hey, I
beat
got
me
a
to the
present
trigger.
for you."
You beat me to
What
the
is
trigger on Finger Gun Friday.
Oh, Finger Gun Friday! Forgot. Pow, 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 pow. Ah, I said pow pow instead of bang 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 bang. I have determined that bang bang is the only appropriate finger gun noise that you can make. Anything else doesn't sound as awesome.
Bang bang it is.
Yeah, pew pew, pow pow. Vroom, vroom. I don't know what that is.
Hear that? Well, happy Friday, guys! Another
Happy
episode
Friday,
13.
guys.
Episode
Listen.
13. Do we want to jump into John's just biggest sleep hack, or I guess quality of I can bat lead off here on that one if you guys like.
Let's do it.
Biggest hack I've said in the academy, everything. I am such a baby boomer, guys. I have a baby face, but I'm a baby boomer through and through. Purchasing an Apple iPod, you can still get them on Apple. You have to go to the music section, kind of finagle.
Not
your
for
way
long. Not for long.
They're not going to have them anymore?
They discontinued them like 3 weeks ago.
I was looking for mine. I have the old. I bought I spent like $300 on it the other year because you can't get them. I got the original color screen with the spin wheel, still the rotating wheel with like the biggest memory you could have. I had to find somebody on eBay to sell me one. Oh, I have that song.
Damn,
I have all my old songs on it. I don't know where it's at now though.
Damn, I might have to just get another one and just hold it. But it relates to sleeping because pretty much my phone is on Do Not Disturb all day unless I'm expecting a call. That relates to sleep though because I pretty much try to put my phone away on Do Not Disturb as early in the night as possible just to kind of keep my dopamine, serotonin, give myself a little bit of like a tolerance break. No distractions, no messages are dictating like my mood, my feelings, energy before I go to bed. And then same thing when I wake up. Not perfect, especially adjusting here in Miami I haven't been on point with it as in Baltimore, just throwing it in a closet and being really good with it. But that is a big one for any biohacker people that follow like anybody, Dave Asprey, Ben Greenfield. They say similar stuff. They go a little bit more hardcore where they're getting like the blue blocker glasses, which look pretty chill. I'm not that much of a savage in that regard. But I'm just good. I'm good with just not looking at my phone, keep my phone off me when I wake up at least an hour, dictating and controlling the inputs that I want to have, typically a good book. I'm trying to get up earlier and look at the sunrise just for like natural circadian rhythm, seeing the sunrise around 6:20. Just seeing that bright orange right over here over the bay and then seeing the sun set on this side is supposed to be really good for just like your operating system in your brain. So those are the biggest, somewhat primal hacks that I have just to lead off here.
Very nice.
You know, I'm not going to lie. I only said what I said because I was trying to be funny I was just gonna say.
Uh-oh.
I had a line that was queued up. Sleep is my drug. My bed is my dealer, and the alarm clock is the fucking police.
Wow.
That's
Love
all
that.
I was gonna say, and then we got into this in-depth convo about sleeping. I'm like, shit, I don't have anything in depth to say about sleep.
That's
Ah.
hilarious. That sounds like a T-shirt.
Yeah, it probably is. Probably one of those ones you get at like Ocean City or something. You know what I mean? Like kind of Clearwater Beach. No, man, I agree with what you're saying. I don't really have anything. I cannot say I am that in tune for sleeping. To like patterns, behaviors. I try to turn like the blue light off on my phone when I'm on social media at like 10 o'clock at night. But other than that, I'm not really conscientious about anything else. I do not sleep well. I will admit that. I get random amounts of sleep and it's never enough. That's why sleep is my drug. Never get enough, baby.
That's pretty funny.
Love sleep.
Let's see. I don't block out my phone, or like I don't put my phone away. Probably should, because I can see how that affects. I don't do blue blockers because really, like with 3 young kids, the only time that Shannon and I really get is past 9 p.m. and we like to try and watch at least one show at that point in time.
It's funny, we do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Put the kids to bed, watch your TV show that's inappropriate for them.
Exactly. Stranger Things has been on lately. The only other things I do is I take magnesium and CBD before I go to bed, just to help me get into a nice deep. I used to not have sleep problems. I'd say the last 5 years, my sleep is getting progressively worse and worse. We'll see if that trend keeps happening. And then I try not to drink too much after like 9, in terms of like water, so I don't wake up and have to go use the bathroom.
I'm the opposite. I gotta drink water before bed. I do wake up in the middle of the night having to go to the bathroom, but if not, I wake up with a headache. Like I have to. I don't know.
Oh, you wake up with a headache? Okay.
I have to.
I've heard of.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I've heard people go the total extreme, like not drink, and then they take salt tablets to dry themselves out as they sleep.
Savage. That's a savage.
That sounds like
crazy.
So
that doesn't necessarily. So depending on what type of salt they're taking, like regular table salt will dehydrate you, but like a pink Himalayan salt, right?
Yeah.
So I take salt tablets. It doesn't dehydrate. It actually hydrates you because the sodium, our regular water is filtered all the natural minerals out. So when I take like my electrolyte salt tablets with Himalayan salt in it, that doesn't dehydrate me. It hydrates me. But I mean, I have to drink that water, bro. Like I am like a furious hamster sucking on the water bottle, like off the side of the cage after like running on the fucking wheel for like 100 different times as like my owner watches me pointing and laughing. I'm just like, you ever wake up in the middle of the night doing that? Like you just have this ice cold bottle and you're just sucking it down and you're like, oh,
like the best tasting thing ever.
Fucking good.
Yeah, you're like, it's like the best tasting.
It is. Water never has tasted so good.
Yeah.
And you got like nasty morning breath. You don't give a shit. This ice cold water hits your lips and you're like, oh, that's where I write my gratitude list. I'm grateful for cold water.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
I really visualize that.
Yeah.
No,
everybody
good,
can relate to that right now.
Yeah, that's all good tips. I'm sure there are some savages out there that stay dehydrated afternoon so they could maximize sleep efficiency, and they get hooked up to an IV so they're getting water dripped into their bloodstream while they're sleeping.
Carlos,
crazy.
I'm sorry, but I want to do that.
Hell,
I want to start an IV company. Like, so Brittany, I've been bugging her. I'm like, Brittany, you're a nurse, because you have to be a nurse to administer the IVs, right? And I'm like, we should start an IV company here, because I would be the number one customer. I would be on a freaking banana bag 24/7. Well, I live in Polk County. We don't have that shit here. It's in Tampa, Miami. I'm sure, Carlos, you could probably order it up right now on an Uber app, and then they'd be at your door plugging you in on the fucking episode.
There are those.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. I know people who do that. I don't know if you can literally do it every day, but I'm sure there'd be problems of dependency with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I know of
cool.
like our coach Dan Martell, fast coach. He does it before his main events. So like he does 3 or 4 events a year, in-person events, and so him and a few of his staff will go and do it the day before to just like be ready
Tap
for
in,
everybody.
baby.
Yeah. I've never done it myself. Have you done it, Carlos?
No, not. I've gotten IVs before when I was dehydrated, and my dad's a doctor, so I would just get strapped up directly for my dad.
I've never done it at all, ever.
Yeah, but I know a girl that's a nurse that does it for like hangover purposes.
Yeah.
Like literally when she goes out drinking, she'll just hook everybody. Like the next morning, like is hooking everybody up to IVs.
It's like I don't know. I feel like I got to do this.
Yeah, it's definitely a biohacker type thing. Like even at like the Dave Asprey events, like just like you know how typically there's that you go and have like water cooler talk or you go and get coffees. You can just go chill and have someone just jab you.
You're getting
with
IV injections, getting stem cell injections. You're just like, what else can I put in my body? I'm down for all that.
Yeah.
Dave Asprey did the stem cell injections too.
Did he?
Yeah. Have you ever read any of his books?
I haven't. I haven't read the books. I've listened to his podcast. I'm intrigued by like high fat for cognitive and fasting. I love all that stuff.
Other than the health thing, a good tip that I do, joking around about sleep, the one thing that I find that does help for productivity is instead of writing out my to-do list the morning of, working on what I want to do the next day. So like I woke up really good this morning and I was fast out of bed because the night before, like I told myself what I needed to accomplish, why I was going to get up early and get to the office early. You know what I mean? Before my phone calls. So when I woke up, it was top of mind. It was top of mind.
I'm just picturing you drinking
thinking of it. Whereas when I do it in the morning, when I get to the office, I've now wasted all that time. So it's something that I feel like subconsciously when I'm sleeping, I'm thinking about all these things that I have to do. And when I wake up, I have this clear plan of action and I don't waste as much time. Even when I'm taking the kids to school, it's like I feel like I hurry them along faster. I'm moving faster because I already know what I'm doing for the day.
Mm-hmm. That's 1,000,000% too. That's like Think and Grow Rich, organize tomorrow, today. Yeah. So true. Huge 80-20, just smart lever to pull is like whatever you're kind of dripping into your mind the night before is next day. And that's like when you talk about like morning routines, your morning routine really starts the day before. So that's kind of like that semi-parallels with me. Like I don't want to have my phone on me for at least an hour just because I'm controlling all the inputs of my mind, whether it's a TV show to relax, what I'm reading, journaling, anything like that. So that's 100% true.
And like Lee Iacocca, I read his biography many years ago. He used to do that. If people don't know who Lee Iacocca is anymore, he's not a famous real estate guru. But he used to, on Sunday, he would set aside, I forget the time, I think it was like 6 to 7 at night. He would set aside, he wouldn't work on Sundays, but he would set aside time at the end of Sunday to write out what he was going to work on, like what his goals and tasks were for the entire upcoming week. And that was what he would do. So that way on Monday, he said, he basically hit the ground running with his departments or his managers. He knew exactly what he needed to do, who he needed to talk to, because he prepped for it on Sunday instead of essentially coming in Monday morning, being blind, disorganized, and then trying to catch up and do that. Because as a leader or as a boss or someone in charge, like soon as you arrive, like you're on go mode, man. You need to be ready to go. If you need an hour or two to get organized, you lost like double that time then.
Mm-hmm. John's muted, but I think he's in agreement there.
So that's
100%.
That's a good strategy. Speaking of strategy, guys, we wanted to, because that's a good sleeping strategy and hack for the week. But I felt.
Can I say one more sleeping thing that's kind of pulse of the week?
Do you have more sleeping strategies? Let's hear it.
I know. Genuinely apologize for any listeners where I was cracking up there. I was just picturing Papa P as a gerbil drinking water. That really made me giggle there. Donovan Ruffin, I have not spoke to the guy, but he is just a beast, and I'm a massive fan of his, just the content he puts out and seeing him in interviews and stuff. And as you guys well know, I've just been pretty much on a constant loop of just watching like a lot of podcasts and real estate stuff, and I want to start watching more like scaling software podcasts in addition to just the entrepreneur, personal development, real estate wholesaling, just keeping a constant pulse on that stuff. But he was saying, and this is an older interview with Ryan Pineda, who I also love but don't know him personally. He was saying he takes like a 30-minute nap every day, but he reads for 15 minutes right before that, because right before you fall asleep, like that's when you're most susceptible to like retaining information or retaining whatever your inputs are. Same thing that us three are talking about right now. So he'll read 15 minutes before he naps, and then right before he goes to bed, that's like the last thing he does is read, because that's kind of what's going to influence your thoughts. Like same thing Papa P's talking about, like kind of doing the organized tomorrow today thing. Like that's just, you're working on it. Your brain is always on. Your subconscious is always on. You know, you're managing your blood, your body, everything. So you might wake up a little better. So that's one thing of this week that I wanted to start implementing. Like anytime before I'm going to fall asleep, even if it's just like a page or a paragraph out of a book, do that. Thought I'd share that. But let's wrap on to strategy.
Let's wrap on the strategy, you know, because last week I had made some posts about IF3 and about different things, you know, for CRMs. I was talking about CRMs on Instagram and different things that they can do. And then we started talking about, essentially offline, we started talking about different things, that how IF3 positions itself. Because the one guy I was talking to on social media had mentioned, he was like, what I love about IF3, and this is a true story, I'm not saying this just to stroke anybody's ego, but he was like, yeah, I'm not a tech guy, and this is the simplest thing for me to use to be powerful for my business. And we were joking about how the opposite is true of Podio, to really get that customized, and how IF3 allows you to customize. So anyway, that led us to talking about IF3 strategies, and I thought that'd be a good topic to kind of flow into when we're talking strategies. Like, you know, I know, Carlos, you had some thoughts on like a matrix, a sales matrix, essentially, like a positioning matrix. And I don't know if a lot of people understand what that is, or how you could compare and contrast a certain product or offering to somebody else or your competitors, you know, and that helps too. I know this is not necessarily wholesale investing related, but how to structure your business strategy, right? Like your matrix, you're comparable to your competitors. We could do that daily in the sales aspect when we're structuring offers too. So I thought it'd be cool if we talked about how IF3 positions itself, man. What do you have to shoot to us?
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate that, Papa P, and the P stands for positioning. So this stemmed from an 80-20 mastermind. This stemmed from an 80-20 mastermind call that we had, where, you know, we're all touching base on like wins for the week and what we're working on. So one of the projects that we're working on at Investor Fuse is our positioning for investors that are in the market for a CRM to manage their, you know, manage their leads, manage their real estate business. A lot of great softwares and CRMs out there. We were recommended a book called Obviously Awesome. It's more specific for real estate software, but I think we can talk real estate software and then transition it into real estate investing and how you position yourself as a company to homeowners in your market that you are marketing to. So for those of you that are wondering, you see Papa P, P is for positioning. You might be wondering what positioning is. So positioning is the act of deliberately defining how you are the best at something that a defined market cares a lot about. So I'll start with Investor Fuse, and we are a seller lead CRM for investors doing direct to seller marketing, just like Papa P. Oh. I had a call last week with good buddy Dean Rogers. He's been on our podcast. He was on the San Diego Chargers in the NFL. Really cool story. Transitioned from professional football to real estate, and he's absolutely crushing it. He has TV ads running, radio ads, more recently getting into PPC. So he reached out to me to just talk follow-up sequences, and he's using RE Simply. So we got to talk a lot about sequences and kind of differences between RE Simply and Investor Fuse, a lot of cool stuff. But what Papa P essentially said, and what I talked, is the same exact thing that the 80-20 Academy, shout out to them, they were giving me feedback on. They're like, man, it's just like really simple to go in and do what I need to do and have confidence of my team is going to do what they're going to do, just because it's so simple and intuitive to use. Like, we've used other CRMs before that have more bells and whistles and kind of sell you on that, but you lose time trying to figure those out, and then you end up not even using them, and then your team is confused. You have dissonance with your team because they don't want to use the tool, or they're not completing what they need to be completing. So for us, as we're working on, it's definitely not finalized. We're working on our customer avatar, reading this book, finishing it, which has been fantastic so far. I'm reading that and Ed Milet's book mainly right now. But it's just interesting to think about. And I think we can kind of transition this to your real estate business, because just to bring up the exact definition of positioning again, the act of deliberately defining how you are the best at something that a defined market cares a lot about. So as we're talking about real estate investing, positioning, like how do you position your marketing? It's through your marketing and your branding, probably how your customers interact, how your employees interact with customers, homeowners, excuse me. How do you position yourself? So the conversation Dino and I were having yesterday, he's super professional. He does TV. He runs a ton of TV ads, a ton of pay-per-click. His website's amazing with Google reviews, testimonials, case studies of deals he's done where the seller's talking. So I told him, I was like, dude, you have a little bit, and we were talking about his sequencing and what to put in there. I was like, dude, you have so much good, like professional, almost to the level of like what Sean Terry started doing a few years ago, where you're super franchise, super professional, like the 1-800 fast offer, where you're almost like a corporate company that you send out like surveys after an appointment. Like, did this person show up on time? Did they show you comparable sales in your neighborhood? Did they present you an offer? And they give you like a 1 to 5 range on that. I'm like, dude, you almost come across like this, like super professional and very like corporate franchise structure, where that's kind of one end of the spectrum versus other people might be more mom and pop, where they have pictures of like, they literally will have pictures of like their family. They talk about how it's a family owned business. They talk about, you know, maybe why or how they got into real estate. Maybe they have some type of personal anecdote, like they're a veteran owned, like they were in the military or something or other. So I think a lot of companies do, like, you're going to do it no matter what. Your marketing, how you interact with your sellers and other vendors, you're positioning yourself, like many things in life, intentionally or not intentionally.
It's your business strategy. How are you strategizing yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so exactly that. But I think some people are intentional about it, some aren't, but you're doing it no matter what.
And that's the thing. To kind of relate this, I was thinking about what you said. So you used examples of how their business is structuring or portraying themselves, right? Mm-hmm. Another way for our listeners to kind of understand this is about your offer, right? Mm-hmm. Is how do you strategize the offer you make to a seller? So we're talking about it from a CRM perspective, right? What does IF3 have to offer? Can they offer you things like transaction app? Can they offer you things like contract sending compared to another CRM you're looking at? That's what they provide you type of strategy. We're offering to excel at these things. Here's what we're good at for you, right? Am I on the right point?
I'm
and
right
then for a wholesale investing company, you could look at it as, do you have programs to help people, whereas your other competitors may not have what we call a stay after you sell program? Do you allow post-occupancy, and do you encourage it, and do you have a way to handle that in a structure, a document? Do you have something to send to them to explain it, to where somebody sells their house and they need somewhere to go? Can you structure yourself as the company that, hey, if you have these unique things, we have a program to fit you? And that's where we do it a lot unintentionally, where people just kind of randomly make these offers. But instead, Carlos is saying, even for us as real estate people, you could start to define what it is you can offer your customer and how you differentiate from your competition. Like I said, for us, a lot of people won't do post docs. They really can't, because they're either not buying their deal, they don't have the buyers that are willing to do it, and they don't even know how to do it. And they don't have the proper legal documentation to handle it. You don't just write it on your contract. You need a separate type of agreement. And that's the differentiating. And that's what I was thinking of, Carlos, when you're saying that. It's not just for CRMs, right? It's how do you structure your offer or your business in comparative to your competitors?
1,000,000%. You are right on track, right on the hamster wheel, if you will. But that's what you think about. It's like, it's exactly that. Like, why and how are you better? Why and how is your offer? We can even get as granular as a specific making an offer on an individual property.
Yeah.
How and why is your offer better than the 3 to 5 other cash offers?
And it's not price. It's not price. He's not talking price. Notice how Carlos hasn't said anything about money yet. He's talking about value adders. Mm-hmm. Adders that have value to them. So whatever it is, right? The survey, that's a value add, because you feel that professionalism and you're like, oh, that's it. How about everybody having a custom, the same logoed shirt on, pulling up with a custom truck? That's a very franchise type of thing. And it does
getting a picture of this is who's going to show up at your property. Like that's a super franchise way versus mom and pop.
Yes, exactly. The mom and pop thing is, and you see it a lot on postcards, it's a little bit different, but going back to the Investor Fuse thing, one of the things when I was talking to somebody about it that I think Investor Fuse excels at, they're good at sales. They're helping you from the point of the salesman on, right? Mm-hmm. So when the point that this lead comes in your system, right, it's not prospecting, it's not doing the marketing for you, you're not sending out RVMs and text messages from it on a mass basis or anything like that. You're not organizing your direct mail and linking. No, that's not what it is, but it's not an all-in-one. I think one of your core benefits is you excel for the salesperson and the salesperson solely. And that's what I love about it personally. It's not only simple, but I do like it. My salespeople love it, man. We crush it. I was talking to not just the last guy, but another person because I'm always posting about it. And I was just like, my salespeople love it. They do. They love how organized it is compared to Podium. Mm-hmm. It's a whole different game, man. And that's, I think, a competitive advantage that you guys have.
100%.
Compared to, what are your thoughts on REI Simply, though, right? Simply.
They're solid. What I saw kind of behind the curtains yesterday was pretty cool as far as their follow-up sequence functionality. And I think some cool, and like that's the cool thing with having our own in-house developers, right? Like I literally brought some feedback from another 80/20 member that uses a copywriter that we're good friends with. So he has 20 plus custom sequences fully running in Investor Fuse. I hopped on a meeting with him this week. He gave me a list of stuff. I brought it to our dev meeting. And half of the stuff he posted this morning and just mentioned me in our project management in Basecamp and was like, yeah, I'm going to be working on all this stuff next week. And I was like mind blown. I was like, man, this is like fantastic. But some of the stuff, I mean, we have some stuff that RE Simply doesn't have as far as like being able to send the message at an exact minute. You can custom send to the exact minute, where theirs is like sending it X amount of time after the sequence starts. So for each message, you kind of have to do some fast math when you send it as far as when it's going to be received by the seller. I feel like that's something that they can improve. That would be a massive leverage. But as far as communication, they can send out like direct mail, and then you can also toggle whether or not you want sequence messages to be sent out or skipped on weekends and nationally recognized holidays. So the stuff that I gave to our developers yesterday, I feel like they could even whip that in too. So it's interesting to see that. I think there's also better functionality on our end for someone that's responsible for that lead. When that seller tries to re-engage you in conversation, whether it's text, phone call, email, for us to be in a position to put our user in position to respond to that seller as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting, man. They definitely have a nice tool. Have some friends here in Miami that are using it. But it was cool to see, and it was more so cool to see our dev after just giving them a laundry list of stuff that we could add to our sequences from a high volume user. The implementation that we're pretty much going to be working on it next week, which is awesome.
I got nothing. I get it, man. I get you got to be fucking PC about things. You're the guy who knows everybody, and you got your friends with everybody, and I fucking get it. I'm not, so I don't really care when shit like this. I don't like their software. It's nothing against the owner. I know everybody has a unique thing. And listen, I know I'm like biased here because I use it and I promote Investor Fuse, but I didn't pick it because I like John. I picked it because I went, like I said in the other episodes, like I'm a builder. I literally went through and tested products. I sign up. I get in trouble with my team because I sign up for subscriptions when I'm testing things. I forget about them, and we're getting billed like $100, $200 for all these things, charging like $2,000 a month, and I'm not even using them. I'm like, oh yeah, well I was thinking about using them. They have a decent product because I feel what them and so many people try to do, they want to do it all, and it's like pick your fucking lane, man. Like. And, I said this, I think, maybe on even like episode 1. Only in real estate, because it boggles my mind. Let me step back. It boggles my mind because real estate people like to think we're business people, right? We want to be CEOs and fucking bigwigs. Well, if you want to be, then you need to act like it, because nowhere in any fucking company I used to work at or that I know of uses one software for all of their fucking department. The marketing team doesn't use the same software team the salespeople do, and the salespeople don't use the same software that the billing people do. But in real estate, we're like, listen, I'm going to buy this for $299 a month, and I expect it to do everything perfectly. How is that even physically fucking possible? How is it legitimately possible? But yet we sit here and brag about how we're business people, but we don't structure our business that way. So I don't want a software that does skip tracing and dialing and texting and cash buyers and all this shit.
Accounting.
It's like, dude, like, I want a sales software. That's what I want my sales team to use. I want a transaction software. That's what I want my TC company to use. I don't want them to share one massive, because I can promise you this, and it's no offense to them, because I'm sure they do it okay. I want someone to do it great. I want a product that says, I created this as a standalone. Ready? Actually, I just thought of this. You ready for this? Could you sell that fucking module on its own for $299? If not, you should have never made it. Boom, I'm going to own that statement right here. Right now, if you can't break apart your software and sell each individual aspect of it that meant for different departments as a standalone software, then you should have never made it. If your cash buyer software isn't good enough to sell it to someone for $199 a month or $299 a month, you should have never added it on. If your skip tracing isn't good enough on its own, should have never added it on. If your transaction software isn't good enough to sell it to a real TC company, you should have never added it on. Boom. And if you did, trust me, you'd be charging a shitload more for it. Boom. Rant's over.
Amen.
And that's it. And so I got nothing against them. I don't know the owners. I did their demo. I looked at their shit. I've talked to people. I watched their YouTube videos, and I was like, nah, dude. Nah. It's
like the historical curse of Podio.
Yeah.
It could be the thing that everybody could,
everything.
Like, you could put everything in here, and then as time went on, we all realized that putting everything in somewhere is not efficient. Yeah, I mean, to your point of like, no other business do you walk into and they have one piece of software. Like that's always how I've kind of approached investor fees and looking at it. At the very beginning, that's how we started. We're like, we're going to all in one, like this is the one-stop Podio shop, because that's when Podio was new, and we're like, this is cool, we could do it. And we did it, and it was super successful. But what we begin to realize is that going deep in something and creating something unique has way more value than trying to stay shallow, like at surface level, just like checking boxes off on all these like little departments. Because what will happen is somebody can come along and make a better mousetrap and can do like one little piece better than you
Slightly
have
better.
it, and they've gone and they're off. And so it's always been our goal to go deep into acquisitions and to make sure that we're doing that to the best of our ability, that we are solving the problems that acquisitions, sales has inside of companies. And I think we've done that really well. I think there's still a few more things that we have left to do and we'll continue to do. But it's only until this point now where we feel very confident in what we have that we're starting to move into another department with transactions management. Like, it took us that long to do that because we're like, acquisitions isn't done. Like, why start somewhere else? We want this experience to be complete. And that's the same thing that we do here as a SaaS business, right? Like, we go and look for what is best for the problem we're trying to solve. I pay $539 a month to Intercom so that we can have the best chat support inside of our software.
And guess what Intercom does? Chat.
Mm-hmm. That's it. I mean, they have knowledge base and they can do like little things, but like,
there are companies.
Chat.
Yeah, they do chat, but so I was thinking, like, I could see someone coming at me, but like, so there's companies like SAP, right? SAP is a large German tech conglomerate, but but they have different products. It goes back to what I said. They could sell that product individually, and that's what I don't like. And I do like that, but I don't like when people tack things on because, yeah, it'd be cool if we had this. It'd be cool if we had this. And I see too many softwares going into that. And it's like, I just want something for sales, and I use Investor Lift for just about like I have my different things, and that's my belief on it, man, is I think a lot of these companies try those things. And whereas SAP has individual departments and organizations structured around all their different products that they're selling, because they have financial management, right? They have, because we use it for accounting, and at the same time they had CRM stuff, but each one is an individual product that you have to add on, and it is actually a full functioning suite on its own, on its own.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, man. I don't know, Carlos. I'm sorry, bud. I'm sorry. I know you're buddies with these people. But I was just like, I don't know.
No, I hear, I appreciate it. And it's good to understand. But yeah, Investor Fuse, we don't want to be an all-in-one. We want to be the one that all can integrate with on the marketing side, capture all your leads.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we don't want to be all-in-one. We want to be the one that all can.
The one for all.
Integrate into, the one for all. They say that. Before that, though, it's a conversation. I brought this up on other episodes. I mean, it goes hand in hand. Like, Investor Fuse wants to be the one for all. Any way that you're marketing, we want to capture it. Before that, though, man, people ask me every single day about managing data and how to do that. I go, man, that is not Investor Fuse. We want to stick in our lane. We want to have our core functionality be as clean, fast, simple, and easy to use as possible. But Papa P, man, these people need a...
Simply does list stacking. I bet that's phenomenal.
Well, John's laughing. For those of you guys who aren't on videos, he's really laughing. Not as hard as I laughed as when Papa P did the hamster drinking out water, but yeah, an all-in-one solution. I think I brought up, like, somebody said it's like driving. The student drivers. It's like having a student driver car where the teacher is trying to hit the brakes while you're driving. That's what managing your leads and stuff feels like out of there.
Man, I can't agree more.
You're on the same page?
I'm on the same page, man. And like, so when we came up with RAI Op Center, right, the whole concept was, I don't want to do what Investor Fuse does. I don't want to do what, these different companies do. I said, I want a place to run my operations, and I want different modules, separate softwares that can be combined to do those things. So to run operations and only operations. Then operation, when someone says what operations is, you got to think of your back office. All the things that you do in your back office, you need different products for that. And I want to create, and that's what I came to John with. And I had this idea, and I was like, John, let's fucking do this, bro. And he's like, right on, let's ride this fucking pony. And, we were riding that pony to fucking, I don't know where I'm going with that, but we're riding it to town, bro. And we're bringing it in. And I guess what it is it comes down to organizing your data, but knowing how difficult it is to create that product. And you know what I mean? Like how complex that architecture is and structure of that product is in the back end. Man, like, it's a system in and of itself. You can't just tack that onto something. And honestly, I love the competitors out there, and I think Batch and I think REI Sift do a good job in their own ways, but their products aren't meant for a company like me. They're not meant for the data that I have, the way I analyze. You guys follow me, right? Like, I analyze the data. I mean, I want to get down granular, baby. I want to know who I skip traced with, who I attempted to skip trace with but didn't get results. I want to be able to break apart my husband and wives. I want to be able to put 3 or 2 sellers in with multiple mailing addresses. I want to update addresses like when I get back from skip trace. I want all these things to really manage my data. And I can tell you this, an all-in-one system is never going to give you that. But too many people get caught on price and say, well, I'm paying $299 and they have this, so let me use it. But is it the right product for you, bro?
Think about that, guys. Is it? I don't think so.
People, and I learned this from John, people add these things on because they're trying to maintain their user base, right? And they're trying to add something to a top tier. And so they're just like, what else can we do? It's that never ending thing of like, well, we got to do something else to drive revenue. Like, what? Oh, fuck it. Let's add on list stacking. Oh, shit. We did that last quarter. Like, what else should we do? They don't, in sales, I call it unpacking. Like they're not unpacking one thing and making it the best. I want it to be the best. And that comes from like 14 years. So even on like the transaction side or the cash buyer side or these things, like you should strive to make it the best product. And if not, I don't know why you have it inside your system if it's not. Otherwise, it's just like this, like a hangnail. Nobody likes it.
Yeah, it's like if you went to the grocery store and you bought a frozen dinner. What are those, like, not Hamburger Helpers, like what are those, like frozen
Hungry Man.
TV Hungry
Hungry
Man. You buy yourself a
I
Hungry
fucking
Man.
ate the shit out of those.
I go for
like
some
Hungry
chicken
Man
tenders
versus like
Meatloaf.
cooking yourself each part, or even like going to a restaurant, right? Like there's different levels of quality of the meal, and you get better results for you, your body, your mind, as you go up the scale. And to your point, right? Like that's what people attach value. And like the quote I always remember in the SaaS business is like, you don't want to be in a price war, because you're just going to price yourself to the bottom, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
like somebody comes in with a new product and they're like, all right, we're going to do it $10 cheaper than the other product.
It's a fight to see who will work for the least amount of money. It's the same thing in real estate investing. People start offering less and less or more and more, right? You're offering more and more to make less and less. It's a race to see who will work for the least amount of money, which is why we go back to what Carlos was saying. And it's about what your competitive advantage, your business strategy, right? What makes you better than your competitors other than price?
Yeah. I really think that the real estate market could benefit from positioning themselves, their company, to the sellers. I mean, I think that book there, if anybody wants to read it, it's really insightful.
Oh, I'm already on Amazon. I'm debating between the Audible version and the paperback version. I'm trying to see how much time on hand I got.
It's a really small book,
bro.
And
I was typing it in my Amazon list.
It's a
And
really
dude, it
small
can
book,
be.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, even like, I'm just thinking of it like for real estate investors, like it can be, and this is why it's so. I always harp on like reflecting. I guess it's just a personality trait of mine or how I'm wired. But like, couldn't it even be just like a really good closing experience for the seller? Like, hey, if you work with us, you're gonna work with our TC. She's awesome, really friendly. Yeah. You send them a thing of cookies or flowers or champagne or wine, however they get down after. Like, hey, here's our, however you want to present it, but here's our offer, cash, whatever way you're doing an offer. If you work with us, you're going to have a very good closing experience. We're going to make sure that you're paid. We're fully transparent. Like, it can just be like one little piece of your entire process of working with your company. There are thousands.
Carlos.
FYI.
Is Inside Investor Fuse, baby. I've been trying to do this, actually. They have the ability to automate. Well, you do. I say they, but it's you. You have that ability to automate once something happens, so I can trigger that event to happen. And one thing we're working on is we have a what to expect when expecting to sell your type little book. And we want it automatically once the TC gets the deal, and you sign the contract immediately in your email is going to be the welcome along with the what to expect book, because no matter what I have phenomenal TC, just the best we've had ever to date. But no matter what, they still don't remember everything, the sellers. So you have to send the seller something. And that's something that Investor Fuse does, right? That automation for that sales aspect. And yeah, it mixes into transactions a bit, but it's more about like that process. And that's professional, right? You're sending that out. Because we all know just because they sign doesn't mean it's a guaranteed deal. I have many that we have memos on that we're fighting because somebody else calls up. We just had this happen. Someone calls up and says, I'll pay you $5,000 more. The only thing that's going to stop them, and it was all my TC, I give her full credit. The only thing that stopped that guy from signing with the other person was his relationship with not just the company, but with that transaction coordinator and the processes that we have to make them feel comfortable.
Yes.
That's our competitive advantage. That's our business strategy. We try to make sure everything is processed and strategized out in the proper way.
Perfect example right there.
Yeah. I wonder too, I don't know how sustainable this is, but, and maybe other companies do this, but to make your positioning a certain type of real estate, like just mobile homes, just fire damage, just
guys
whatever.
Do that. They excel at one thing and one thing only. you could be the duplex king or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Like
Your whole branding is just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
That's I saw a dude. What's his name? Another guy that I don't necessarily follow him, but I've seen him. I think his name's like Elijah. He's like a fire damaged probate
Elijah, yeah.
specialist. Yeah.
Yeah.
They call him like the fire damage.
Like
fire damage guy. So like whoever, whenever they have a lead, it's a fire damage house. They think of this guy. And he knows.
You think of him and you go to him.
Exactly.
One of the biggest mistakes I ever made, and one of my most successes, is after I learned this. When I was younger, I wanted to do if you said, and I was a real estate agent too at the time, Brandin, can you sell my commercial property for me? Yes, I can. Brandin, I want to sell my business because real estate people sell businesses with real estate. Yes, I can. Whatever it was, I was like, yes. But I didn't know. It wasn't until I started saying no and identified and like defined who I was and what I'm good at, right? And I say no to shit that's not in my wheelhouse. And it boggles people's in my office mind or even on the staff. And they're like, hey, boss, if someone says they're selling this, can we buy this? Can we do? I'm like, not in our wheelhouse, dude. Like, let's focus on what we're good at and go after that. That's not what you're trained to do. And some of them will get pissed. They'll be like, well, there's money there. And there's this. Fuck yeah, there's money in everything. I walk outside, there's dollar signs on there. I could go sell cars. I could go find a used couch on like Ryan Pineda and go find some used couches and furniture and go fucking sell them for money, right? But that's not what we do. And that's the thing is like you got to focus and stay in your lane, whether it's fire damage, whether it's single family, whether it's mobile homes, right? Or whether it's just all a residential, or whether you build out residential and then you focus on commercial. You got to do it one at a time, baby.
Love it.
I'm with that.
Yep. Positioning.
Well, that kind of goes not just positioning, and Papa P is for purchasing because I am purchasing. The P in Papa P is for purchasing because I am purchasing that Amazon book.
Love it.
Obviously awesome.
Good one.
But about branding too. And that's something, Carlos, you had mentioned prior to the show was positioning and branding. And I think that's kind of a mix of what you were talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Is the branding. How do you brand yourself?
Mm-hmm.
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 Yeah, because too often people think a brand is just like the colors you use, your logo. I need a shirt. Your brand is the visual representation of your identity as a business. And it needs to, and it expands beyond what people see and into how they feel about you. And what they do see in your brand and who you are, how you show up, how your business shows up, will reflect in how they feel about you and your business. People think that I'm going to go on Fiverr and spend $30 and my brand is done.
It's a work in progress too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, even for Ari Simply and the guy from San Diego, the football team, like I'm sure he didn't just hit the gate with all these things. He started in one thing, scaled it. You have to develop your brand, your slogan, these things. Like I'm not done. I'm still working on this book. I've literally had that what to expect when expecting to sell thing for like 2 years.
That's amazing.
It's been on my thing. We have like the template. I've never put it into action. It's an ever going thing because as one thing pops up, you have to do something else. So you're always working on it, always improving it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I
think we got off track. I want to get back to what Carlos was saying, and I think the moral of the story was you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And really,
you need to be intentional about it. You need to be intentional about it. Whatever you want to do, you need to be intentional about it. Is the moral of the story.
And that's when you really start making the money. Mm-hmm. And you need to train your people on it too, right? Like it's good that you have it. So like even in our training in the morning, we talk about these things. Like what can we offer? What separates us, right? And that I would say actually is more unintentional because I still don't have it fully written down and outlined out for people to learn from. It's more of an ongoing convo. But yeah, I mean, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I'm even thinking, I don't want not to get off too off track here, but I'm even thinking of like Grant Cardone, like 10X, like his positioning and branding and how that's grown. You know what I mean?
He is. He's the brand. He is the positioning branding.
He's a marketing. King. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. He is. You know where to go, and that's the thing is like, it takes forever. But as it goes, eventually people will see you as a certain person, and they will. It's even as a realtor, people thought it's not about your marketing isn't meant to get you leads right now, right? Your marketing is that when they're ready, you're the top of mind, you're the one there, and that goes into your follow up too, right? You don't just send out a marketing thing and say, oh, they're going to remember me. No, I mean you have to continue the follow up, and you'll be top of mind. And then eventually you get to a point like Grant Cardone or even like Tim Bratz and some of these guys out there, like even Pace Morby with Sub 2, you excel at what you do. And then eventually when someone has that, they go, who can I call? Who can I sell this to? Who can help me? And your name becomes synonymous with that. And people say, well, they're the best at what they do. We should go to them. Correct? Thoughts?
More than correct. More than correct, 100%.
I don't have anything to say about that because it was so awesome.
Obviously
awesome.
That's not bad. The producer's in my ear to clip that for social media. 100% agree. And the to put somewhat of a cap on that, the discussion Dean and I were having yesterday was he was showing some sequences that, for lack of a better term, showed a little bit of being unethical. Not necessarily unethical, but just kind of like short, quippy text messages to try to get a response from somebody. Like just saying yo with a bunch of O's.
I get that.
And Pizza, I've talked about this, and Pizza in our other podcast, and Pizza does that. We were talking off air. I just bought a bunch of t-shirts from BVLT or BYLT, excuse me. And they texted me even before the show. They're already trying to get me to get my next purchase and gave me like a 10% discount. So that's not necessarily like re-engagement. They're trying to get me as a repeat buyer, which isn't the same thing as wholesaler or marketing directly to homeowners. But part of the conversation was like, man, Dean knows his brand, or he has a brand and he has a positioning of being like very professional, everything like that. Where he's like, man, my friend gave me these sequences. He's like, they just don't feel good to me for like my messaging. Like I don't necessarily. I was like, dude, that's it right there. You said this 5 times in the 20 minutes we've been on Zoom. Like, don't do that. You're not speaking your message.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't resonate with a lot of the ways a lot of people do things. I don't. I have to do things my way. My intro is unique to me. Our processes are very, it's like Dean. Like I don't know this guy, but it sounds like he's building something strictly structured. He's not plug and playing. Like I've taken certain things, like even when I did my cold call script, I'm looking at other people's scripts and some of the shit they said in there, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm not going to say this shit. Like, holy crap. I can't believe some of these other companies get away with some of these lines, like it seems very scammy and shit. And everyone's got their thing, right? You just got to define what yours is.
Absolutely. If you're going to be scammy, go all in. Just be like 1-800 scam your house.
But you know what, dude? I'm just going to say that every industry goes through a cycle. And in the beginning stage, it was like medicine, right? Back in the day, medicine, you roll up with a little fucking like wagon cart. You open up the fucking doors and you got all these vials of water that you're telling us some magical elixir. And so people got scammed. There was a lot of shit. And it was like drive-by scamming, wagon by scamming. And it's the same thing in the early days of wholesaling. You could do that, man. Like long before we even called it wholesaling, and you were just talking to sellers and you were just checking a box on a contract and signing it out, you could get away with all kinds of shit. Competition increases, right? Supply of the leads and the customers goes down a little bit, and demand and more competitors increases. And so you have to change your business strategy and get more professional, more defined, more organized, and like Carlos said, more intentional. And that's where people like Dean, or like where I'm at with InvestorFuse, trying to tie in. I'm not a big automation guy, but trying to tie in a few automations to add to the process of what we're doing.
Yep.
And you can always go deeper. Because for context for us and like the project we're working on, we've been doing this for over 6 years, and we have thought, which we do to a certain extent, we know who we are, what our position is, who our customer avatar that we're looking to serve is. Same thing as you guys should be thinking about with your real estate business. But it's still taking us deeper reflection and deeper research to really get that even more chiseled down and specific and granular. to know our exact positioning in relation. I don't know if necessarily, this is an interesting thing that I'm just thinking out loud, is I don't necessarily think real estate investors need to research other wholesalers in their market or other investors in their market. I'll toss that to Papa P underhand. But I don't know if you necessarily need to know other people in your market to position yourself against. What do you think about that for real estate investing? Like,
I think it's important to know what's happening in your industry, local, nationwide, whatever it is, because I think there's always something to learn. But yeah, I agree with you. You got to take the top of the top. Most of what your competitors are doing is irrelevant. You're never going to matter. You're not going to cross over with them. They're not even going to. It's a candle to a sun type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to a certain extent, there is always something to learn. Like when I listen to podcasts or other people that are either at my level or way above my level, I'm like, that's interesting. I see how they're positioning themselves, or I see what they're saying or how they're doing it. How can I apply that to my strategy, if that makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of people in my market, man, I'm just in a smaller type of market.
Yeah, and for real estate investors now, I'm kind of thinking of it. Maybe you know some people in your market, some investors that have been there longer term or have had some type of stay there. But maybe you just know, maybe your positioning is a little bit more general than us, like real estate SaaS, where you kind of know your position versus working with an agent that's going to list your house or something like that. Maybe like an iBuyer that's also going to offer a cash offer, maybe a little bit higher. So maybe it's a little bit more general, the type of person or entity that they're selling to, instead of.
And you're obviously going to have competition in your local market if that's what you're saying, and you have to see how they're. Like I know a guy, he's a good buddy of mine, and he really excels at his relationship with realtors, which is kind of like what Jamil and them do. Work with the realtors, get the listings from them. And as a realtor, I used to be that realtor that would liaise with the investors to hook people up. You know what I mean? Who can I call first type thing. I know a guy who's great at that, and like I know a guy who is phenomenal at just mailing. Like everyone does their thing, and you just got to figure out what works for you. And I don't want to be like, I also know a guy who's happy flipping, whether it's 50, 60 a year. I don't want to do that. I want to be bigger than that. So that's all I'm getting at, is you could take a little bit from everything and use it as guidance. Sometimes it's not what people do that you learn from. It's what they don't do that you learn from.
That's deep.
Show. You want to know what else is deep? The recession we're about to go in.
Wow.
Is it though?
Segue.
The recession. I keep hearing a bunch about it lately. Like tech companies have been laying crap ton of people off, which is intriguing. It's always a good indicator something's coming.
Freaking-flation. I don't know. That's kind of the thing, right? Is like, I guess the biggest thing is so if you guys follow me on Instagram, you see that I'm posting a lot, and like I'm of the belief, I'm not always right. I'm of the belief that we will see a recession, but house prices are not going to crash. And I know people are saying, "Oh, prices are going down." Listen, man, we're huge in Florida, and like, yeah, I see prices going down too, but I see investment properties going down, and investment as in income properties, because as interest rates go up, the cap rates that people are selling these investment properties that were selling at 5.6, well, now people are requiring a higher one. They were way too low to begin with. People were getting lucky, so they're normalizing at a more normalized rate for the current level of interest rates. So that does bring price down, right? So, and rightfully so. And the other thing I'm seeing is, I've been flipping for a long time, and there's always a thing where you could get away with putting lipstick on a pig in a market like we were in. Back in the day, you really had to put a house together after the recession because people were afraid to buy, right? So if you wanted a good amount of money for your home back then, and even up until like 2015-ish, right? Like you put together a good product. Bro, I've seen in the last couple of years, people just buying houses, putting them on the market. There's shit everywhere. The the paint is ugly. There's paint marks everywhere. They're not updating vanities, and they're getting top dollar and even over appraised dollar, right? Over list price. Those ones I'm seeing come down too. I'm seeing those ones. You start to see the shitty photos on the MLS, and you're like, that guy just did a price reduction, and rightfully so. You're seeing those ones decline. But I am of the belief that just because we're going into a recession, that house prices won't go down. You saw my post that out of the last 6 recessions, right, 1980 and 81, I think it was 1991, 2000, 2008, and 2020. Only 2008, and I believe it was like 1991, had dips. And 1991 was only like a 1 or 2% dip, right?
Yeah.
And it's in pricing for houses. That ain't shit, bro.
No.
You just watch where you're buying at. And that's my belief. I'm not saying I'm right. There's other people that are saying the crash is coming and house prices are going to decline and employment is bad. Yeah, that's stagflation, right? Like employment and income are going down while everything else are staying roughly the same and declining a little bit while prices and GDP, you know what I mean? Like that's happening. Yep. Unemployment goes up while the natural production of things go down and everything gets more expensive.
Yep. Yeah, and I keep hearing a little bit too of the term correction, like a correction. Or
correction and a recession don't necessarily mean the same thing.
Right. And to like stagflation, I think is better describes what's happening, but just the idea that things were like overinflated over like the stock market, house prices, and they're correcting a little bit.
And then they say mortgage rates are low. Well, no shit, mortgage rates are low because no one wants to refi into a 5.5% or 6% mortgage. Guess what? When me and my ex bought our house in 2012, interest rates were like 5% anyway. So to me, I'm like, this is the same shit that was happening when I bought the last house that I lived in. When I bought this house, my current house with my wife, I think interest rates were like 4% or something. I mean, yeah, you guys, everyone got freaking lucky at 2%, okay? That's not normal.
Right. Yep.
There's a time when I think they were like 8-12% back in the 70s or something. I wasn't alive back then, but I've heard rumors back in those days, those ancient days. Gas was like, you couldn't get gas. I mean, I wasn't alive, but I remember stories of like people, my dad would tell me people would be like going up to their other cars, like siphoning out with a hose gas from people. And that's when they started putting locks on the gas. If you ever had an old car when you were a kid because you couldn't afford a nice one and you bought a car from like the 70s and 80s and shit, and there was like a lock on your gas cap, you needed a separate fucking key to get gas. That was fun.
That's savage. I imagine people doing that like the hamster drinking water, siphoning off gas like that.
Yeah, my dad had taught me, so you put the hose in and you start sucking with your mouth on the other end of the hose, and you have to be quick not to swallow the gas, spit it out, dump it in your thing, and let gravity do its work. And I remember my dad, how did you learn to do that? And he told me about the 70s. It's like back in the day, you have people stealing gas.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I've spent $150 to fill up in Clearwater yesterday, taking my son. And I have like a 20, whatever. I mean, my diesel was like $6 a gallon, bro.
Yeah. Gas prices are crazy. Yeah, I mean, exactly. So I think like the cost of living too is going to be, I think, a massive, I mean, and that's what happens, right, with inflation and gases. Like,
but debt is at an all-time low. I read that credit card debts and like regular personal debts are at an all-time low.
That's because they use the government's money to pay them all off.
Yeah, or buy Shibina. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be intriguing to see what happens. I mean, like from the SaaS business, the SaaS world, like it's not like run and panic. Like you're seeing, like Y Combinator, who's came out with, they're the ones that cultivated like Airbnb and stuff like that. They basically told everybody, stop burning cash. It's now about your runway and your profit. You must conserve cash. So like you're seeing massive layoffs in the tech Silicon Valley. So anybody that was chasing growth instead of chasing profit is going to be painful. It's going to be very painful for them, as it is with every recession. And but yeah, those companies that are profitable, they'll just keep their eye on it and continue to do so, and they'll be fine. And in the SaaS business, consumer churn always goes up first. Like business B2C consumer churn goes up first, and then after that, then B2B can be affected by it all. So
I mean,
could see some things there.
It's different for, I mean, I don't know how to say it, but it's like you just buy properties cheaper, and I know that's easier said than done, right? Buy properties cheaper because you don't know where the bottom is. So what's cheaper? How do you define that? That was the problem in like 2009 and 10 when I got started in real estate. People were afraid. To me, I was new into real estate, so I'm like, this is pretty fucking cheap. I had nothing to compare it to because it was new for me. But I mean, from a real estate perspective, I don't know if people are going to necessarily. I mean, if you have cash flowing assets, that's always going to be a good thing. Your unrealized gains may disappear. I know a lot of people whose portfolios, their net worth has tripled over 2020 just because of the growth. And that fluff is going to disappear, but that doesn't equate to a crash in my book.
No.
And if you could survive a year anyway, then what's the difference, right? Like recessions typically last 1 to 2 years, depending on 18 months, I think is what I read. I mean, can you survive? Shit, man, I've been in some shit for 18 months before. If that's all a recession is, like, bro, I was doing that the other year. Like, I can fucking survive that. That's my daily. That's like every other year of my life, dude. What are you talking about?
Brush
that
that
shit
right
on my
off.
shoulders.
Yeah,
bring something harder at me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's just another problem. I mean, everything's got its cycles, and
Carlos, what are you hearing,
cycles, bro? And so does the economy.
Carlos, what are you hearing from the people out there?
Man,
what are other investors saying?
The people out there are saying similar things, I would say. What it always circles back to me, though, is just I don't know. I'm most fascinated by the value of the U.S. dollar. And from the book, I don't have it on me here, but the new Ray Dalio book, if like the U.S. dollar, what's the term, global currency? If that's going to remain as the global currency, what I'm picking up from his book thus far is that's going to change.
Changing principle of changing world order. Ray Dalio. It's like a 14-hour fucking book. Yeah. Phenomenal book.
What I'm picking up thus far, just how he's talking about cycles and everything, he's foreshadowing that's going to change. Whether it goes to a digital currency, if it goes to another country's currency. So for some reason, that's what like the main thing out of all this discussion. That's the main thing that is coming up in thought and feeling for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Are people saying? Are you okay? When you talk to other investors, though, just flat out, are they saying crash, correction, or slowdown? Those are all three different things. Crash, correction, slowdown.
More correction, slowdown. More correction, slowdown. I should have sent you this, and maybe we can talk about this next week. I should have sent you a Robert Wensley post where he was pretty much saying the next 5-6 years for wholesalers is going to be absolutely amazing. Tune in next week to check out that more in depth for those watching.
I dig it. But you know what? I'm still buying, and I'm going to leave this as we're wrapping up this show. Anybody who says you can't get fucking deals is a fucking bum. There's deals everywhere. We were just buying a house at like 40 cents on the dollar, and every time I find deals like this, it always reminds me it's a crock of shit when people say, man, it's so hard to get deals out there. You need to stop hanging around those people.
Yeah.
I heard someone say that before. Stop hanging around those people. There's always deals. Like Carlos said, or Robert Wensley said, the next 5 to 6 years. I can't agree with that. I don't really know anything about the next 5 to 6 years. What I do know is I'm going to keep buying. My biggest regret was selling all my multifamily properties the other year. But I also learned a huge lesson from that as well. So,
God. All right. Well, another great week, another great topic, some more polls. Tune in next week for more of it.
Tune in next week for more. Who knows what we'll talk about next week? Maybe more on all kinds of interesting topics. Papa P stands for possibilities.
I like that.
I like what you're doing here with the P and Papa P. We can
that.
really run with this.
I like that. In perpetuity, we might. I like that.
The P in Papa P stands for perpetuity.
It does.
All right. Papa P out.
All right, guys. See ya. Have a good one.